You can always choose. God. A faith-based story, reflective and narrative. The decision did not come in a loud, dramatic moment. It came quietly, on an ordinary evening, in a small room, after a long day that had taken more than it gave back. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, his phone glowing in his hand. Messages scrolled by. Invitations he didn't feel excited about anymore. Conversations that felt empty. Promises that had already been broken more than once. Years earlier, he had believed life would be simpler by now, clearer. He thought faith would protect him from confusion, pain, and disappointment. Instead, here he was, tired, uncertain, and standing at a crossroads he didn't recognize until this very moment. And that was when the thought formed in his heart. I still have a choice. Not a choice between success or failure. Not between comfort or struggle. But between two directions. And one of them led back to God. 1. The weight of wrong choices. Daniel had not rejected God outright. It was more subtle than that. He still believed. He still prayed. Sometimes. He still attended church when life slowed down. But he had learned how to carry God carefully, keeping faith close enough for comfort, but far enough to avoid inconvenience. Whenever obedience became difficult, Daniel chose what was easier. When honesty cost him opportunities, he stayed quiet. When pride felt safer than humility, he defended himself. When God's voice challenged his desires, he lowered the volume. And slowly, almost without noticing, his life began drifting. Nothing collapsed overnight, but peace disappeared quietly. Joy faded. Purpose blurred. He had gained freedom, but lost direction. 2. The illusion of control. Daniel once believed choosing his own way meant strength. He built his plans carefully. He trusted his instincts. He relied on logic, timing, and effort. And for a while, it worked. His career progressed. People admired his confidence. Doors opened. But success could not silence the emptiness that followed him into quiet rooms. Late at night, when distractions were gone, questions returned. Why do I feel so disconnected? Why am I tired even when I rest? Why does everything feel fragile? The truth surfaced slowly. He had chosen independence over obedience, control over surrender, himself over God, and the weight of carrying his own life was beginning to crush him. 3. A familiar voice in an unfamiliar place. One evening, Daniel stepped into an old church he had not visited in years. He told himself it was coincidence, just a place to sit, to think. The sanctuary was nearly empty. The wooden pews creaked as he sat down. The stained glass windows reflected fading light across the floor. And suddenly, memories returned. He remembered being younger, hungrier for God, less polished, less guarded. Back then, faith had been simple. God had been first, not after plans failed, not when answers ran out, but always. The words of Scripture echoed quietly in his mind. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. Daniel realized something powerful in that moment. Choosing God was not a one-time decision. It was a daily one, and he had stopped choosing. 4. The cost of choosing God. Choosing God had never been the easiest option. Daniel knew that. It meant letting go of control, admitting he didn't know everything, allowing God to reshape desires he had grown attached to. It meant risk, trusting a path he could not fully see. Most people around him had chosen differently. Comfort, approval, immediate reward. Choosing God often meant standing alone. But what he feared even more than discomfort was continuing life without meaning. So Daniel sat there, quietly, honestly, and prayed the most dangerous prayer he had prayed in years. God, I don't want to lead myself anymore. 5. The freedom of surrender. The change did not arrive instantly. There was no dramatic sign, no sudden solution, but something shifted inside him. The burden he had been carrying, the constant pressure to have answers, to appear strong, to control outcomes, began to loosen. Surrender did not weaken Daniel. It freed him. When he chose God again, he did not become passive. He became grounded. He stopped reacting and started listening. He began making different choices, speaking truth even when it cost him, walking away from relationships that pulled him from God, prioritizing integrity over image. Each decision felt small, but together they reshaped his life. 6. When choosing God means starting over. Choosing God did not mean keeping everything. Some things could not follow him. Old habits resisted change. Old friendships faded. Old versions of himself had to die. And yet, in the loss, something unexpected grew. Peace, steady and quiet. Clarity, not about every detail, but about direction. Trust, not in circumstances, but in God's faithfulness. Daniel learned that choosing God does not guarantee an easier life, but it guarantees a meaningful one. 7. You always have a choice. Time passed. Daniel was still imperfect, still learning, still stumbling. But now, when the crossroads appeared, and they always did, he recognized them. He remembered that no matter how far he had drifted, no matter how many wrong turns he had taken, the choice always remained. He could choose God, not because he was worthy, not because he had earned it, but because God had never withdrawn the invitation. 8. The quiet power of choosing God. The world will offer many options: comfort without conviction, success without sacrifice, freedom without responsibility. But none of them offer what God does. When you choose God, you choose truth over illusion, purpose over pleasure, eternity over the moment. And even when the cost feels high, the reward goes deeper than comfort. Choosing God doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes anchored. 9. A decision that is always available. That night, Daniel left the church quietly. Nothing around him had changed, but inside him, everything had. He understood this now. No matter the season, no matter the failure, no matter the distance, you can always choose God. And that choice, repeated day after day, is what slowly, faithfully transforms a life. God bless you.